All right, what is up, takers? Welcome back to this special edition of Ties Take Today Live. I know all of you that have been watching our episodes are used to us going live every Thursday and Sundays at 6 p.m. Eastern on Facebook and YouTube. But of course, with the upcoming election and campaign season in full swing in the city of Detroit, we are dedicating this segment to not only talk to candidates running for office in the city of Detroit, whether that's for city council or for mayor, or even just introducing different legislatives and proposals and issues that are impacting you and our communities and our families, and then just really breaking down the roles of different people when it comes to our local and statewide government. That being said, I am super excited. Like I said, we are live streaming on Facebook and YouTube, and kicking off our first ever edition of Detroit After Dark Power and Politics, we are going to be talking to Chantel Watkins, who is currently running for Detroit City Council District 5. And I am super excited, and I'm going to go ahead and add Chantel to the virtual stage right now.
Hey, everybody. Thank you. I'm so excited.
Absolutely. Thank you so much for kicking it off. I'm super excited to dive in and just really break it down for our audience. And kind of, if you want to start by introducing yourself and kind of letting our audience know what cities and what communities and neighborhoods are within your district.
Yes, definitely. So my name is Chantel Watkins. I currently reside on the North End. I've been a District 5 resident for like the past 10 years all over the district. With that being said, it's the biggest geographically in the city as far as district goes. And it starts like Dexter Davison, goes down Linwood, Boston Edison is included in that, the North End, Midtown, part of downtown, and it goes down Jefferson all the way down to Van Dyke. So it's really, really big. As you can see, there's a lot of different neighborhoods. It touches 75 and the Lodge. It's got Woodward down there, and it has Jefferson. So also some of like the biggest streets as well.
Absolutely. And you guys can see a graphic up on the screen as well. And we'll be sure to include that graphic on our social media as well. And then Chantel, also for those that are watching, I just wanted to reintroduce our segment. Like I said, Detroit After Dark Power and Politics is a bold new platform that is focused on authentic conversations at the intersection of culture, community, and influence in the city. So I just want to say thank you again. And for those that may not be familiar, currently, Detroit City Council President Mary Sheffield is the current representative for District 5, correct?
Yes, she is. And she's running for mayor. So it's an open seat.
Absolutely. And I know for those that follow you on social media, I want to get more into your platform and the issues that matter most to you. But can you just walk us through what happened with the issue that's surrounding the petition signatures? What was flagged, and how is that currently impacting your campaign?
Yes, so I am being denied my due process by the city clerk's office in the Department of Elections. I received a letter that I had an insufficient amount of petition signatures on May 4th, which was last Thursday, and the deadline to challenge was May 2nd. So that's already problematic that they would send that after. They also sent it with no report to tell me, how many insufficient signatures I had. Was it because, whatever the issue was, they sent nothing. I've asked for the report. I've also gone up to the office several times to try and get copies of my petitions. So right now we did send an appeal to the state, which they are looking into how my petition signatures and the validity of them as well. But I'm still not able to get copies of my petitions. They're like literally refusing them. And it denies our due process. And it denies a lot of people in District 5 the ability to like really vote for a candidate that they care about. And we just shouldn't be doing things to give people no opportunity, the lack of opportunity to even challenge it. So it's definitely, I know that because of the work that I've done and I've always been so outspoken that I have made political enemies with people who are in the current administration. And I pray that there is no intention and ill will that comes from that. But when you're being denied due process, people are not giving you your things back when you know that it's legal in the Freedom of Information Act, regardless if I was the candidate or not, it's very shady.
Absolutely. And for those that may not know, currently the city clerk is Janice Winfrey, correct?
Yep.
So has there been any response from Janice Winfrey or from her team, or has any
Hmm.
statements been released on their part?
Yeah, her team, there hasn't been a statement released, but her team has been emailing back and forth to tell me that I can't get my petitions and that the appeal process is over. And like, like stuff they probably shouldn't put in writing. But, it's all there.
Absolutely. So I know this whole entire thing in your signatures are currently under review, and that is going to be a process. What's the next steps look like? And is there anything out here that residents or business owners in your district, or how can we as the public support you during this process?
Yeah, one of the biggest things is we're gonna keep campaigning because there will be no gaps in my campaign between, trying to figure out if I have enough signatures because we also validated them ourselves, had over 350 validated signatures. So I'm not gonna let allow any gaps in my campaign. We march forward, we march on. So people need to keep volunteering, people need to keep spreading the message. People need to keep donating money, continue to support the campaign. I know, something just happened with Gabriela Romero Santiago where they tried to keep her off the ballot, over a couple of, messages between entities that just didn't line up. So there are a lot of times where mistakes can happen and miscommunications can happen that stand in people's way. But for me, I'm not going to allow that to stop my campaign because we're really trying to make some great changes in the city. And, Lord forbid it doesn't go my way, I still need to be involved in all of this. I do this work. I've been doing this work for 15 years. I do it for a living. I do it for fun. I do it because I care about it. So there's no way to get rid of me in any sense.
Absolutely. And, so with the petition signature issue currently going through that review process and you dealing with that, do you feel that this is, that this situation and this is an example of like a larger systematic issue overall, just with the petition process in Detroit or Michigan politics?
I think that the biggest thing that we really have to look about is when we disenfranchise voters and then expect people to show up at the polls. If there's no fighting chance, even before people can vote, a lot of people are going to be like, well, what's the point of even voting if my candidate can't even get on the ballot? If something's happening like that. So there's a systematic issue that we have. And it's really unfortunate because there's also a side, a lot of people I don't agree with when it comes to their claims of voter fraud or like the voting system isn't working. But when you have things like this that are happening, you're adding fuel to a fire and make giving people a talking point all of a sudden, people you wouldn't otherwise agree with. So we really have to look at how we deal with elections and politics to keep the integrity in there so we don't add any more fuel to the fire for situations that we know are not election and that are not fraud.
Absolutely. And I think you had mentioned it as well. I feel like, saying one thing is, one part of it, but like also the follow through and building that trust and integrity and genuineness within the communities and the different types of businesses that are in your district for you and your team. Because I know so many people out there that I talk to, just like friends and family, even that are just people in passing, are like, oh, I don't go to the polls, or oh, my vote doesn't really count. My vote doesn't matter. For you and your team, I think my biggest and most important question for you this evening is what strategies are you and your team using to increase voter turnout overall and encourage, greater community involvement?
Yeah, I think one of the biggest things that people don't realize is you just really need to talk to folks. You just need to talk to people when it comes to voting. A lot of times when I'm having conversations with people, I'm telling them the power of the city council seat is to make ordinances, make sure the budget is balanced, and to be able to talk to community and make sure that they're getting their resources and that you're really dealing with the issues within the neighborhood. When I have those conversations with people, then I ask them, what do you care about? Okay, it's usually always something that I care about too. It's usually always something that's on the platform. And if it's not on the platform, it's probably a brilliant idea to add to the platform and really having this conversation about what can be done. There has to be a lot of education on what the issues are before, and then letting people know what they're voting for and what that power is. A lot of times people feel powerless because we're selling them this big dream of empty promises that the seat can't even do. So now I feel like, voting doesn't matter because you sold them a pipe dream. Of course, it doesn't matter because you couldn't do any of that in the first place. So, really having conversations with folks that are honest, showing people who I am, showing people, I tell people all the time, like, I didn't vote for a while either. I was irritated, you know? I was very irritated with the system. I wasn't voting in state elections and everything. You can look at my voting record. But I really locked down and buckled down and realized that in order to influence my community, I also had to influence it politically. So working in that realm is very important. So those are the conversations that we have with people, and also making sure that people have the right information, like their polling locations, knowing where their precinct is, knowing where where you're registered to vote, your address, because some people are moving. We know there's a housing crisis. People are moving so often. They go to one precinct and they're not even, registered to vote there. So making sure people have all the information that they need.
Absolutely. And you mentioned previously, if for whatever reason, the ballot challenge does ultimately keep you off this year's ballot, you plan on still being involved in the community, still using your voice, still doing activism, correct?
Yeah, of course. Y'all gonna see me. They're voting anyway. My friend Denzel McCampbell is running in District 7. I'm a huge supporter of his, campaign. If anything bad happens, I'll be a bigger supporter, like and helping him and everything. And I always do things when it comes to the city and state and federal elections. So I'm a parent. I'm always in my community, and I think that's also why so many people are so excited about me running as well, is because like I'm not going to be one of those disappearing acts, like people who run for an office and then you never see them again. Like, no, I'm here. I'm a Detroiter. I'm in the community. I'm working.
Absolutely. And we're going to share some pictures from some of your campaign events momentarily. But while we do that, I want to talk more about your platform, your vision, and what are some of the core pillars of your platform, and how do they directly address the needs of the people that are in your district?
Yeah, definitely. Housing. We just mentioned a housing crisis, right? But there's two different types of housing we talk about. We talk about, well, three essentially. There's homelessness, there is renters and tenants, and then there's homeowners. So one of the first things that we want to do is we want to put home repair grants in the budget. Many Detroiters have been living in their homes for a long time. When I'm knocking doors, you can't even get on some people's front porches because, they're so messed up and they're confined to their side doors. And that's not fair. A lot of people were over assessed when it comes to their taxes as well for a long time. And we need to really invest in homeowners to make sure that they can stay in their homes and that they, get to be here for forever. We want Detroiters to build generational wealth through their homes. We also really want to work hard on having in an ordinance that is a renters and tenants bill of rights. And in that bill of rights, we want to have a clause for seniors. We want to have a clause for the unhoused, and we want to have a clause for the returning citizens. There's a lot of people who do not understand their rights. There's a lot of landlords. If you didn't see the report, I think it said only 18% of landlords are compliant when it comes to safety in buildings right now. We really need to crack down to ensure that all renters and tenants are safe, and those three groups that I mentioned also deal with different issues and how they're targeted by landlords and everything as well. And we really want to, family homelessness has increased almost by 47% in the city of Detroit. And that also doesn't mean everybody, we see the tragic incident that happened with the lady who was living in her car with her children. We see that, but it's also couch surfing. Last summer, me and my son were couch surfing while I was trying to find an apartment. Homelessness doesn't always look, the way that we immediately see in our mind. So how do we be there for families, and how do we talk not only about affordable housing but low income housing, and how do we transition people from homelessness to being housed?
Absolutely. And I also want to really talk to you about crime and safety, which are, constant, persistent concerns for many Detroit neighborhoods. What are your thoughts on, crime initiatives and projects such as Project Greenlight, Shot Spotter? What are some initiatives, or what is your take currently on the crime that's happening specifically in your district?
Yeah, so one of my favorite projects that I was actually very skeptical about in the beginning was Shot Stopper, which was the community policing program like groups like New Era Detroit are a part of, where they work on community policing and stopping crimes before they even happen. And we see with the statistics that they've done an incredible job. Crime continues to lower and lower in Detroit, and I really think a lot of the responsibility is to those groups. I think that when we talk about safety, a lot of times we're talking about how we react to it. But we need to talk about what's happening way before that. And I am dedicated to having in our city budget, and while we're balancing that budget, we need mental health services that are 24/7 mental health responders who come to a situation before a crime even happens. A lot of times when there's a mental health situation, they might break property, they might harm someone, they might, physically assault the police or whatever that is. What do we do before we even get there? So that we don't have this crime now, so that we're not having that. We really need to invest into the mental health services within the city and what we're offering folks, because mental health has just gotten worse post the pandemic. And Detroit really, really needs to buckle down on what that looks like. So we need to continue to have that programming. But even when it comes to like our young adults and our youth, there's nothing to do in the city after like 7 p.m. The rec centers are closing and everything. We need to work with business owners to bring movie theaters. We need to bring, more skating rinks. We need to have laser tag. We need to have activities that are not just concentrated downtown, midtown, and Corktown. While those things are lovely and amazing, not everybody's getting down there. We know we have a transportation gap. We know we have a wealth gap. And it will also increase in more jobs. If people have jobs and they're able to house themselves and they're able to feed themselves, they're less likely to commit crimes. So there's a lot of stuff that we can do when it comes to public safety before it even gets to the police.
Absolutely. And you mentioned public transportation. Another key issue that impacts a lot of families and just people individually is food insecurity.
Yes.
And, the lack of resources that some people in the communities have to do majority of their grocery shopping at the corner store, which is meant for the liquor stores and the quick snack runs. But you have families that, and people out there that are forced to, because they don't have the adequate transportation to get to a major grocery store.
Mm-hmm.
So when it comes to expanding, like you said, mental health resources and just, addressing the food insecurities in communities, any specific projects that you would like to see or any direction you'd like to see both of those items?
Yeah, definitely. While I love some crispy crunchy at the gas station, okay, we really need to have a lot of different options. And District 5 is blessed to have like the Detroit People's Food Co-op and the Linwood Fresh Market. So we also have like, some Black owned and some community owned grocery stores within our districts, but there's still a lot of people who could not get to grocery stores. And I have a short-term and a long-term plan. My short-term plan is to give grants and of refrigeration units to gas stations and liquor stores where we have places like the Detroit Co-op, the Neighborhood Grocery, and the Linwood Fresh Market. We have them be the suppliers to those. So we're not only expanding businesses and giving more jobs, but we're able to get fresh fruits to neighbors who are, dependent on those entities. Also, we see tax abatements have worked downtown. They brought corporations in. We need to offer those to like Kroger and Meijer and Aldi to bring grocery stores in the middle of the neighborhoods as well.
Absolutely. And Chantel, before we dive into this quick game of rapid fire, any other points of interest, or I'm going to give you the floor to address District 5, address our viewers and audience, and let them know, of course, where to follow you on social media, and then we'll dive into that rapid fire game.
First of all, this is a good show. Okay, great questions. I super appreciate it. One of the biggest things that I want to do in District 5 is bring all that amazing energy that we've seen downtown and bring it to the neighborhoods. If we know tax abatements work, let's give them to small business owners. If we know that we need to bring more jobs to Detroit, bring them to the neighborhoods, since we have a transportation gap and not everybody can rely on the bus that we need to. We need to really work and invest in our neighborhoods, making sure our homeowners can stay homeowners, making sure that the people who are renting are in safe housing. We really need to work on those things. And I will be using ordinances, the budget, and working across the aisle, not only with the city, but to the state to do so.
Absolutely. And let's go ahead and dive into this quick game of rapid fire. For those that may not be familiar with our platform, we do this with each guest on our show. It's about 8 questions that are rapid, random, and just a good time. All right, kicking us off. What Detroit staple are you grabbing at 2 a.m.? Since the show is called Detroit After Dark and we are going to be airing later than what we are now, are you grabbing a Coney dog or Better Made?
Coney. Well, beef Coney specifically, but a Coney.
All right, so American, Lafayette, or a local district Coney?
Grandy's.
Okay. If you could trade places with any Detroit icon for one day, living or gone, who would it be and why?
Aretha Franklin, because she was that girl.
Yes. Which political figure, local or national, would you not want to be stuck in traffic with on I-75?
Trump.
I can't answer the questions. I have to just nod my head. But all right, so this next one. Describe Detroit politics in one word, and we can't say messy.
Wild.
First concert you ever went to in Detroit?
Summer Jams B5.
Ow, B5. That was back in the day.
Yes.
All right. So if you could while campaigning door to door, if you could bring a Detroit sports mascot with you, who are you picking? Paws, Hooper, or Rory?
Hooper.
I would say all of them. Just bring them all.
Yeah. Hooper be
Bring
doing
all
cute
the sports
stuff.
fans.
Yeah.
Hooper, right. I've seen Hooper on top of like the Pistons vehicle at like Motor City Pride. Hooper does it. What's your guilty pleasure Detroit TV moment? A viral council meeting or reality show drama?
I want to watch a viral council meeting.
I'm not gonna lie. I sit here watching some of the local council meetings, and I'm like, "Oh, they're going off. Pop off." Lastly, which song would you use as your walkout anthem at a debate night in the D?
A debate night in the D. I would do "I Grind to Shine" by Doughboy Cash Out.
Chantel Watkins, thank you so much again for joining us for our first edition of Detroit After Dark Power and Politics. Be sure to let everybody know where to follow you on social media. We're going to throw it up on the screen as well.
Yes, so you can follow me on Facebook. It's my name, Chantel Watkins. On Instagram, it's Chantel for FOR, not the number, Detroit. And on Twitter, it's Chantel, the number 4, Detroit. So follow me on everything.
Absolutely. And then for those that are interested in learning more about your campaign, they can view your website to join the email list and get more information on events and how to donate, correct?
Yes, it's Chantel for Detroit, FOR.com.
Absolutely. Again, Chantel, thank you so much for joining us. Wishing you all the success. Be sure to keep us posted, and we'll be sure to have you back on to talk about all of the amazing things you're doing in your district.
Thank you. Keep taking over, okay?
Absolutely. Again, that was Chantel Watkins. She is running for Detroit District 5 for Detroit City Council. Be sure to connect with her and follow her on all social media platforms. We'll be sure to also include all of her social media in the description and comments and all over our social media as well. That's going to do it for this edition, our first ever edition of Detroit After Dark Power and Politics. So thank you guys so much for joining us. Be sure to share this video, follow us on all social media. I'm going to go ahead and give you guys the rundown real quick. Facebook.com/@It's Ties Take Today. Go ahead and hit that subscribe button on YouTube as well at It's Ties Take Today. And then, of course, Instagram as well. We keep it all real simple for you at It's Ties Take Today. And then, of course, TiesTakeToday.com. This has been Detroit After Dark, Power in Politics. We'll see you guys right back here very, very soon as the countdown to Detroit's election continues.